Okay, so for our closed reading passage today, we have a fiction story, but it's still kind of tying into the sports extreme thing. Today, we're going to read about two girls who are going scuba diving, which I'm really scared to do, but I kind of feel like I want to do it while I'm here in Taiwan. So we'll talk some about that, and I will share, or we'll have already shared a video with you guys to watch of some scuba diving once you're finished with a lookbook later on, okay? So I'm gonna share my screen, read through it together once, and then I'll show you which questions you need to answer today. So dive buddies. Angie carefully stepped down into the rocking boat. A moment later, Kelly swung over the railing onto the deck, nearly crashing into Pierre, the dive master. He gave Kelly a stern look, but she ignored him. Kelly's brash fearlessness had been on display all week, and Angie couldn't help but admire it. The two 16-year-olds had been dive buddies as they passed their advanced open water scuba course and earned their certificates. Now they could finally dive without the dive master, all the way down to 30 meters if they wanted. So I don't know much about scuba diving, but I do have some friends who have gotten their open water scuba certificate here in Taiwan. And so basically what you have to do first is, if you don't have the certificate, you cannot go under the water diving without a dive master or an instructor who's walking you through everything and there to make sure you're being safe and following the rules. You have to go through all these courses and you need to learn how to do things on your own, get the certificate before you're ever able to go underwater diving without an instructor legally. So these girls they went through the course, they have their certificates, and now it's the first time they're going to go under without their instructor there. The instructor is going to stay in the boat, but he won't be underwater to help. Okay. The boat pulled away from the dock. Pierre brought their air tanks, and they each attached their dive vest and regulator, the device that delivered air underwater. So that's what they breathed through. They began to discuss the dive plan. Take it easy on our first dive, maybe 20 meters for 30 minutes. Do what you want, Angie, Kelly replied. I'm going deep. She gave Pierre an impatient look, without dive master Buzzkill watching over me. Angie frowned. They were dive buddies, and that meant they were supposed to agree on the dive plan. Angie almost said something, but after a week with Kelly, she had learned that disagreeing with her was pointless. Kelly acted as though she was never wrong. Does that sound like someone you would want to dive with? Someone who's not going to listen to you? I don't think so. See what happens. 30 minutes later, the boat reached the dive site. Pierre reminded the girls to stay above the 30-meter dive limit and keep their eyes on their air gauges and dive computers. So they're technically not allowed to go deeper than 30 meters. The girls pulled on their fins and took a giant stride off the boat's platform. Kelly's dive mask immediately popped off when she hit the water. She had forgotten to hold it close to her face. Luckily, Angie was there to retrieve it. They purged the air from their dive vest and began sinking. Below them, the reef sloped off into the darkness. They cruised along the top, Kelly always in the lead. Angie took her time and looked around in wonder. Above her, a flash of silver caught her eye. It was a barracuda. She knew they were harmless. They sure didn't look like it with their needle-like teeth and jutting lower jaw. Angie turned to get Kelly's attention. There they are. So this is a picture of when they first jump in. Kelly, remember, she's the one who doesn't listen. Right off the bat, her goggles fly off because she wasn't doing what she was supposed to do. So not a great start. Kelly wasn't there. Angie spotted her descending, going down, along the sloping reef. Angie swam after her, holding her depth gauge, 20 meters, 21 meters. She did her best to catch up, but Kelly was a strong swimmer. Angie was thankful when Kelly came to a stop. She was trying to climb inside a giant barrel sponge. No, Angie wanted to scream. You're never supposed to touch sea life. Everything is really, really fragile. Angie grabbed Kelly's arm to pull her up. Kelly turned and took out her mouthpiece, smiled, and blew a stream of bubbles right here. Then she put it back in her mouth. But instead of first breathing out, as she was supposed to, she inhaled a gulp of water. Kelly gagged and coughed, then panicked and tried to break away from Angie. Angie kept a firm grip, however. Finally, Kelly was able to get a lungful of air and stopped thrashing. Angie flashed the okay sign to Kelly. Angie saw Kelly roll her eyes as she returned. Angie checked her depth gauge. They were nearly 30 meters down, which was still safe, but much deeper than Angie's proposed dive plan. So Angie's definitely not comfortable with all of this. Kelly is just doing what she wants to do. Angie's really just being a good friend here, because when you have a dive buddy, you're supposed to stick together. It's not safe to go diving all alone. Things could go wrong. Something bad could happen, and you need someone else there to share your air with if something bad happened. Kelly's just being rude, in my opinion. Okay. Angie gave the signal to ascend, that means go up. Kelly shook her head, but Angie wasn't taking no for an answer. She clamped down on Kelly's arm. They broke the surface together. Angie felt relieved, then angry. Before she could say anything, Pierre jumped off the back of the boat and swam up beside them. "Everything okay?" he asked, the three of them bobbing in the ocean swells. "I want a new dive buddy," Kelly said, "one who isn't afraid of it." Angie bit down hard on her mouthpiece. She turned and swam back toward the boat. All right, this little box about scuba training, you guys can read on your own. I want to get to the questions here, and then you guys can get to work. 1 second. Okay, here's our questions. Number 1, let's do that one for sure. Okay. There she is. You can't see that. Let's move this. How do Kelly and Angie compare? Yes. So, what's different about the two girls? How does Kelly react when Angie stops her from touching the giant barrel sponge? What happens when Kelly and Angie surface at the end of their dives? Yeah, all 3 of these ones, it's right there in the text. You should probably just know that now after reading it once, but if not, you can always check. No, not number 4. No. Yes, number 6. What do you think Angie should do next and why? So at the very end of the story, it doesn't really close it off completely for us, because we don't know what Angie says. She kind of just goes off. She's holding her feelings in right now. She doesn't want to get too angry and blow up. So what do you think she should do next and why? Not number 7. We'll talk about number 8 after class. Someone can remind me. I hope I remember. So 1, 2, 3, and 6. And then maybe think about this one, because we will talk about it. All right. What lessons might readers learn from the story? Alrighty, that is it. You can listen to this again if you would like, or just keep rereading until you get all of those answers there. All right. Lookbook is coming up next.